Hello and welcome back to the Perception Podcast, where I just see things a little bit differently. I'm Dan, your host, and today I want to talk a little bit about how at the minute I feel like I'm losing control. Losing control of my life, my goals, and my emotions. Anybody with autistic tendencies in my experience loves routine. Even if it might seem like they act spontaneously sometimes, there is always a structure and reason in their heads for doing so. And recently, as you know, I've been trying to kind of tackle this negative mental state that I've kind of developed head on. But I'm also trying to do this in one of the most hectic and stressful part of my life so far. Anything that I quit on, so to speak, I see as a failure. So now when people are kind of constantly trying to tell me to drop one of my A-levels so that I can find the time that I kind of need to relax and reset, my immediate answer is always going to be no, because I feel like that I've failed at what I've set out to do. So if I won't reduce the amount of work that I'm currently doing at school, the next obvious option is to try and get more support inside and outside of it, which I've only just recently started to try and do. But it's gotten to the stage now where I'm actually refusing online counselling because I don't think that it would help, even though I haven't tried it yet. I think that I rejected this form of help because it just kind of feels like I've spent years now kind of trying to get help with like my mental state, my anger, my anxiety, all these things put together. And because obviously a lot of the organisations work for the government, or even the private ones really, they obviously have a set kind of guidelines of what to say and what they can and can't say. So it feels like I've kind of got to the point now where I've kind of heard most of what they have to say. I've kind of listened to it. I've tried it in the past and it just hasn't really worked out for me anyway. I know it can for a lot of people, but it just kind of feels like I've tried all these different options and different avenues that they've tried to help me out with, and it's not like I don't appreciate the help. Obviously, thanks to them for doing their jobs. Without them, we would have lost a lot more young kids and stuff like that. So they're doing brilliantly. But for me, it's never really helped in that way. So now it's kind of getting to the stage where, even though I'm progressing with getting diagnoses for stuff, is that a word? I don't know if it is. Even though I'm getting that and kind of getting help from camps and stuff, it still feels like I'm going through the same meetings with the same type of people anyway, saying the same things because they can only say so much. Anyway, that's what it feels like to me. So when I got offered this kind of online counselling, where obviously it's just over text and stuff, I was very sceptical because although it can help a lot of people, I just thought it'd be really like auto-generated and not unique at all. And I think at the minute, what I need is like really unique help, and for somebody's kind of like this podcast is just kind of listen to what I have to say and kind of build off that, because I don't think, not that I'm like special in any way, but I don't think what I'm going through is fairly regular for a teenager. The emotions that I'm having are definitely regular, but why I'm having them and stuff are a bit irregular for a teenager. So I feel like the help that I need is not this bog standard stock kind of therapy that they give to young people. And I feel like, and I know that I'm kind of dismissing it straight away with this online counselling. I haven't even tried it. Maybe it'd be perfect for me and maybe it'll give me exactly the help that I need. But that is anyway why I was apprehensive of it, and why I'm currently, I wouldn't say refusing to do it. I've just not been proactively trying to get it started because I have all these worries about it, and that it can feel like a bit rehearsed sometimes, and that they're not genuinely invested in what you have to say. So yeah, I'm, as I say, I'm just a bit dubious as to what their intentions are and whether they are actually there to help me as a person, or just to kind of tick the boxes and say they've texted me this, that and that, directing me onto all these like helpline sites and stuff like that, and then they're done. It's gotten to the stage now, I think, where I don't want to go through another long, slow, arduous process to just get nothing out of it. Not that it can't help other people and it's not good in what it's saying and its intentions maybe, but for me personally, I don't want to have to go through that, open up to a whole new person, take them through my life story, feel like I'm moaning and feel like I'm whinging and feel like all my issues are trivial all over again, all them emotions, just for them to kind of give me the same bog standard response that I've had 12 times before, because I just know that's not going to help me. So especially with online counselling, I think in-person therapy is a bit different because you can see if the person's genuinely invested in really trying to help you and trying to think in new ways that you haven't heard before. But with online counselling, you literally don't know whether it's just copied and pasted responses. And I know I'm kind of making a lot of big assumptions here, seeing as I've literally not even tried it yet. But again, I don't want to have to start on the process, start getting to know somebody new, start opening up, which to a lot of people is like this easy thing that they can just do on the turn of a dice. I don't know if that's the same, but like to me, it's actually like hard to open up, hard to even socialize with a new person. For me, that caused me a lot of anxiety and stress in itself. And then to really open up about my mental health and how I'm feeling and stuff like that, just for them to give me, as I say, just a response that is just not going to help, not going to get me anywhere. I don't know if the risk and reward, like even though it sounds a bit pathetic, it sounds a bit trivial, but it is for me risk and reward. I don't know if it's worth it to even start the journey at the minute. So if I'm not necessarily open to the online counselling side of things, I also wanted to talk about what other types of help I could get or somebody in my similar situation could get, because I think that could be quite useful to some of you listening. And what have I been offered in the past and at the present, really? And I think the main form of help that you kind of get offered, especially from school and stuff, as a kid and as a young person, is kind of school counselling, which might seem a bit, as I say, just generic and not very unique and genuine to you. But I actually have to say, I don't know if it's just in my personal situation, but the school counsellor that we have at my high school is actually very good. And while it is you kind of get the sense that she can only say so much, you can tell that she is genuinely invested in you and kind of is really listening to what you have to say. So especially with the school counsellor that I've had, even though not necessarily has there been anything that I've kind of taken away from and go, whoa, that's completely changed my mindset, completely changed the way I think about things. Like I feel like some people can get out of therapy sometimes. It's nothing like that, but I feel like just, especially at school in a new setting, to have somebody that's really listening to you and invested in you, and that you can kind of in that stressful setting of a school, kind of take half an hour away from just to kind of talk to somebody. I think that could be really useful. And then the other forms really I'm trying to think here is obviously just talking to people you know as well. There's obviously the medicine side of things that I'll get onto a bit later. But I just think the main thing here is just counselling, trying to change your mindset and stuff like that. And it's just what form of opening up to others, because at the end of the day, that's the main way that you're going to kind of get anything achieved, trying to get up somebody else's perspective, because you're one that's biased to your situation and can only see it the way that you are seeing it. So as soon as you kind of open it up to somebody else to get their interpretation on things. Sorry about that. You might have just heard outside. I think they're doing some sort of construction there. Didn't sound too good, whatever they're doing out there. But yeah, I think a different perspective is the only way that really you can open your mind up to a different interpretation of things and kind of get past them negative feelings, whether it be in any sense, really, anxiety, anger, depression, even like body dysmorphia or anything like that, like eating disorders and other things. I've heard people through therapy have kind of really found that useful and stuff like that. But also I feel like just to have somebody listening to and somebody to kind of lean on and depend on in times of need can be really helpful, because it kind of feels like you're tackling this big monster of feeling and emotion and stuff like that, and big enemy together rather than on your own. And I feel like that can be really reassuring and give you confidence to kind of tackle it head on. But I actually wanted to open up about the medicine side of things as well, especially my experiences with it, because medicine to me anyway, especially with my legs, has always played a big part in my life. Painkillers after operations and stuff like that. And obviously the operation itself, having to numb my legs and stuff so that I can go under. And also, I think it's the anesthetic, is it called, that makes you go under so that you kind of pass out while they do that. And that's always been kind of a thing that is a bit traumatic, because it kind of puts you to sleep and you don't know what's happening while you're under. But it's always something that I've had to get over in order so they can do an operation on my legs so that my legs can get better and stuff like that. And that's kind of the way that I've reasoned it in my head, because even though I'm out of control in the sense that I don't know what's happening while I'm asleep, while I'm away, I know that the end goal in the end is to better my legs and to get me in a better place mobility-wise. But with my mental health, the only medicine that I've really been offered in the past is melatonin to help me sleep. And that's kind of like a natural substance that's in your body anyway. It's just they kind of give you melatonin when you are not producing enough of it to kind of help you sleep and to kind of help deal with the anxiety that you're maybe having towards sleep. So I've been offered melatonin in the past, but I've never really been offered anything to help with my anger or low moods, like slash depression. But now it's kind of getting to the stage where a lot of people are telling me that if I go to the doctors or maybe CAMS when I eventually get that appointment with them, that and I kind of talk to them about how I'm feeling and stuff like that, they're gonna offer me kind of um, medicine to help with my low mood. But I hate the thought of medicine making me less conscious mentally and kind of controlling the way I feel and the way I act and stuff like that. I feel like it would kind of pacify me, and while that is a good thing in some ways, I also feel like it would make me less alive in a sense. I know that sounds really weird, but my relationship with medicine, especially around mental health, is really distorted. I really don't like the thought of medicine, as I've just said, just controlling me in a way, and I'm really worried that if I take it, I'll just become somebody else, and I hate the feeling of not being in control, especially of myself. And I've kind of had that in the past in my anger. I'm a normal person when I'm sat here talking to you here, but when I kind of get into that really angry state, I kind of get that red mist, and I don't remember it while I'm doing it. I don't remember it for a while afterwards. It's kind of feel like I have an out of body experience. I'm kind of detached from what happens, and that's really weird. And I've always really hated that because I've had to take responsibility for my actions, but I can't remember choosing to act that way or even acting that way in the first place. So I've always found that quite weird, and therefore, when they've kind of offered me, or even the thought of medicine to kind of deal with this has come up in the past, I've always been really reluctant because I've always worried that, as I say, it will just kind of suppress me in a way that I don't want it to. And I'm just, as I say, I'm just really worried about the effects that it could have. But another question from this, I think, would be: do I think my mind will ever change on medicine? Will this kind of distort if you ever go away? And that's a hard one for me, I guess, because I feel like if I was, obviously my mum's always tried to educate me and people here and there, and I'm not saying that they haven't been helpful, but I feel like if somebody went to me and said, right, this is exactly what's going to happen when you take it, and this is exactly the risk of this happening and stuff like that, I'd be a lot more open to it, because my mind works in a very statistical, logical way. And the things with stuff like mental health medicine and mental health in general is it's kind of like abstract. It's kind of like English and not maths. With maths, 1+1 = 2. And I feel like that's kind of my physical health. If I do this, this will happen and this will work, or I'll just try this a little bit harder. But with my mental health, it's much more of like an English essay. This is what you have to do, but there's not a word you can put to get a mark. It's just up to your interpretation of the question and how you answer it and stuff. It's just a lot more open. And I feel like this with my mental health. Sometimes I feel a bit lost with it because I just I don't know what I don't know what I can definitely do to get an outcome with it. It's just kind of every day is different, and every day is a whole new journey sometimes. So especially with medicine to kind of amend that and kind of react to that, I just feel like it could skew my mind in a whole new other way that I'm just not prepared for when I'm already struggling to deal with it in this way to begin with, that I've been trying to get used to for years now. So in conclusion to that whole like kind of little waffle there, do I think my mind will ever change on medicine? I really don't know. I feel like, as I say, if somebody was able to come to me and say this will definitely happen, which obviously you can't 100% do with medicine because it still is a kind of uh, chemistry experiment at the end of the day. Your body might react slightly differently, and that's where side effects come in and stuff like that. Um, if you really think about it, but hopefully my mind will change on medicine in the future. It's gotten to the point now where even ibuprofen that I've taken in the last week, I have to chew them because I'm worried about choking on them. That's the extent that my anxiety's gotten. And if you've ever had to, I don't wish it on anybody, but if you've ever had to chew ibuprofen, you know how disgusting that is. And I have to do it quite a lot. And you know how much my anxiety must be around choking to have to go through that quite often, that taste of just for no reason. But yeah, that's kind of like my perspective on medicine anyway. I know it's really skewed. And I know that it's not necessarily true, but I think my mind kind of works in the way that I always worry about every single outcome first and go through a process of that could not happen, that could not happen, that could not happen before I actually try something, rather than just trying something and worrying about it afterwards. And while that can be good in some situations, kind of like check myself and make sure I'm not doing anything stupid sometimes, it can also lead to stuff like this where medicine could actually really help me. And I've heard some good things about it from people. I've heard some good, I don't want to say stories, but like experiences from it where I'm like, oh my God, that's actually helped that person. And I didn't think it would actually. Maybe I should give it a go. But then my head just goes back to the same thing, like, will I be alive? Do you know what I mean? Will it just change me completely? Which, while people assure me that it won't, I still don't know that. I still don't know what it will be like until I take them. So it's just kind of this like cancelling out kind of equation that I haven't been able to quite get right yet, but hopefully I will in the future anyway, and hopefully I'll be able to kind of get the support I need, I guess. And the final kind of question I've got on this in my notes is just: is there a realistic chance that I'll agree to taking it in the near future? And it's kind of the same answer to what I've just talked about, but I really don't know. I really hope that I'll kind of shift my brain into gear and be able to think about it in a different way and just be open to try it. Maybe try it once. If I hate it, if I don't feel like myself, then fair enough. I've tried it and I'll never try it again. It's just the initial. It's like I'm doing a bungee jump, so to speak, or a skyfall. Is that what it's called? I know it's not, but you know what I mean. When you jump out of a plane, 20,000 feet in the air, or some rubbish like that. It's just, you're worried, you're anxious and all stuff like that. But if you just jump off and do it, even though it's on a much smaller scale than this, obviously it's a lot less thrilling taking bloody medicine. But once you jump off the plane, you'll know how you'll feel. You'll know if it's too much, if you even if you're going to die from the experience. Do you know what I mean? Once you only know what's going to happen once you're in the experience. Do you know what I mean? So I just kind of have to feel like with stuff like this, I just kind of have to shut up and try it and see if I like it and see if it's for me and see if it's going to help me or not. And I feel like the longer I kind of put it off, the longer it's just going to get worse and worse. And I'm going to be constantly questioning, would that help? Is that the way for me to go? Until I actually just do it. And kind of leading on for this quite nicely, I don't know how nice it can be with this kind of topic of mental health medicine, but anyway, the debate kind of question for this week that I came up with, do I think more work needs to be done to try and educate children and change their perspective on medicine? And obviously this applies quite a lot to what I've just been saying and quite a lot to me in general. So I've put here in my notes, yes, I do, because at the moment I feel like, especially with younger kids, they might not have as good as understanding of medicine. Their perception normally is that I will just take this and I'll kind of miraculously get better. So I think this could definitely be the subject of more education at a younger age to prevent naivety around medicine. Because what I'm trying to get at there, I think in my notes, is that when you're a child, especially like, it's kind of like this kind of religion kind of aspect that like, oh, I'm being told this, so of course this is going to happen, and you're not really educated on things. I'm going to take this, going to take this medicine, and I'm just kind of going to get better. I don't know how. I don't know what's happening in my body, but I know if I take it, I'll feel better. So I feel like if we educate younger children, obviously not at the age of 5 and stuff, because it will just scare them. But when they are ready to, I feel like this will help a lot. I think it could also help a lot with kids knowing what they have to do when they're older to kind of feel better. Because I know myself, every time I feel ill, I just kind of go to my mum and go, right, what do I need to take, kind of thing, ibuprofen, Nurofen, whatever. So I feel like definitely a lot of education around medicine, and it not just being like this kind of thing to make you feel better and this thing that you don't really know about, but you know, if you take this random white red tablet, whatever's in it's going to make you feel okay. I feel like a lot could be done. Nice little voice break there to educate kids, and just so we know about it. I feel like it's such a simple thing because medicine is so widely available, obviously, nowadays. We should know more about it. It shouldn't just be the subject of an hour-long biology lesson or chemistry or whatever science subject it is. Believe me, as soon as I could get away from science in school, I ran as fast as possible, as fast as I can anyway. And then the rest of what I've kind of said in my notes here is, but for me personally, I feel like if I had received more support and maybe even counselling for taking medicine in the first place at an earlier age, now I think that would have really helped me out now. I think this side of things is really overlooked at the minute, as I just said a minute ago. I feel like if it was all explained to me a lot more clearly, I think I would feel differently about taking medicine to help me out mentally. I feel like if I knew more about it and what the risks of certain things was and what the percentages of things was, I'd feel a lot more okay about. Okay, I'm going to put this into my body now. When you go for operations, I don't know if any of you have, but a doctor literally goes to you. There is a 0.0001% like chance that something bad might happen, or maybe 10% chance or something like that, and you have to sign a thing. Even though it's really blunt, especially for a kid, and it might just be me personally, I feel like people being blunt with me and being honest and just telling me how things are and what's going on, I feel like that really helps in my brain to kind of rationalize things. And I feel like being left in the dark and being out of the loop, so to speak, even though it's a bigger thing as like mental health medicine, I feel a bit out of the loop here. And I feel like if I was a bit more clued in and they had taught us a bit more about it, I might be more open to taking it and be more open to the idea of it, because I would know in better detail how I would feel and how it would kind of change me when I took it, if you know what I mean. But yeah, we've actually got through this episode actually quite quickly. That is just my view of things and my experiences and feeling towards, as I like to put it, mental medicines so far in my life anyway. If you have found that interesting or insightful in any way, remember to stream and download the podcast and like, subscribe and comment if you are listening to it on YouTube. I think that's all I have to say for this week anyway. Hopefully you're all having a good week and found this even a little bit helpful, because I'd like to help in any way I can. As always, I'd love to hear from some of you on your thoughts on this. For some reason, I found it hard to speak and get my words out this whole recording, but for now, that's it from me, and you'll hopefully hear from me very, very soon. Bye.